What's happening, everybody? All right, as promised, the next day in the revival of the fittest of this Honda TRX, I did the engine rebuild in the last video. So in this video, as I said, the suspension was gonna be showing up the next day. It did. So I'm gonna do a little unboxing for you guys right now so you guys can actually see what came in the mail. I've been kind of hiding it. A few of you might actually know what it is, but let's find out now. That was a whole lot more effort than I thought it was gonna be. When Jed at Roll Design tells you he's gonna wrap things up, man, he ain't kidding. He wraps the shit out of this stuff. Good on you though, because looks like everything made it here without a scratch, which is good. I've been waiting on this stuff for a long time, mainly due to Elka. I love their stuff, don't get me wrong about that at all right? But Elka is about 10 weeks out right now. Building shocks for people. So if you want something off the shelf, yeah, they could probably grab it for you and just toss it out there. I think Jed told me that they had like 04, 05 stuff on the shelf and they could have just tossed it in a box and sent it. But of course, I run an 08, so I couldn't do that. But the other thing that kind of held these up was, of course, you can have anything you want as long as it's in black, right? Well, I wanted red. So of course, I had to send that to powder. So that had to get powdered. And then some issues at powder. Thank you to Jed. You guys usually talk to him on the phone. He's been awesome through the process. I bug him about weekly and I just tell him it's just my weekly checkup because I had to keep trying to find out where these were. I was hoping to have these before Blythe or before Havasu for round 9 of last season, but that just wasn't in the cards, I guess. So Jed kept me informed, let me know what was going on with this stuff, and at least kept me in the loop. And the dude is super nice to talk to. He can help you out. And if you can go and meet Jed in person at one of these works races, which he usually is at, because they have a trailer there, and he's usually servicing Elka suspension and stuff like that, because they're an Elka dealer, right? So he's usually there. You can talk to him face to face, and he can actually help dial you in right there at the side of the track. So thank you, Jed, for finally getting everything to me. I can't wait to put all this stuff on. I gotta put the link together, put everything on there, and then went with a new steering stem. We're gonna see how that works out. I had to go get these anti-vibe clamps, the anti-vibe stem, just because I was tired of getting beat up out there. So we'll see if there's an actual difference with the anti-vibe stem. I'm assuming it's gonna be much better because everybody talks about it, but I guess it's gonna be night and day from here on out with all this stuff on there. I've been waiting a long time for it, so I absolutely cannot wait to get it on there. Let's just get started on it right now, and then I'll get a ride on these things, and I gotta start getting used to it and see how everything jives on the machine. Let's hop on it. Boy, that was a lot worse than I thought it was going to be. I thought that was going to be a cakewalk, but looks like a damn war zone in here. I had to fight the ball joints out of it. That was not fun, so I didn't have this thing on the whole time so you guys could hear me cussing at the damn thing, but got it apart, didn't break anything. That's a good thing. So as long as you guys take your time, you'll be able to get through it, but those ball joints did not want to come out of the hubs, so make sure you take your time with it so you don't break anything, because I got really close. But everything's out, doors open, because I've been spraying a lot of brake cleaner trying to clean up the brakes here. But now I can start pulling the old brake lines out. I've got some new Galfer brake lines, stainless steel brake lines. Those are going to go in. I needed these anyway because Roll Design doesn't send brake lines with their kit. So if you're ordering a set, make sure that you get some extended brake lines anyway, because they don't come with them. Some companies do that, but these guys don't. So those are going to go in next. I've got to unhook everything, kind of unbolted most of it, and then I can start assembling the A-arms and putting them in here, and then shocks will go on after that. Luckily, for the most part, all the hardware around the A-arms wasn't too bad. New steering stem is going to go in while we're in here. Thank God I had impact, because that made life a hell of a lot easier. That's next. Moving on. Let's do this. Hey, before we get deep into it and I start cussing at it again, I just want to show you guys something. That is the difference that we're looking at here. There's your stock A-arm on the right, obviously. Ball joints are, part of the A-arm, so that kind of sucks. But these are the things that you're getting. You're getting your +2 extended arms and then rebuildable joints. So you can see all that, everything's press fit in. You can pull these back apart. They've got little circlips in there. You can pull these back apart, rebuild them. They got bearings, stuff everywhere. That's kind of stuff that you're paying for. You're paying for beefier arms, extended, better geometry, shock mounts are a little better, rebuildable, just longevity. I mean, plus these look killer. Cannot wait to get these on there. So I guess we better get started before it starts getting dark. All right, let's get these pivot pins out. Did you give me your lunch here, Jed? All right, all the pivot pins. There we go. This. All right, update time. Got the steering stem in. That was actually not too bad. The one thing I did run into though, I've suggested this to quite a few people now. The Checo Racing, I think it's Checo. I think I got it right this time. The Checo Racing dashboard, that little plate you guys see right here that I had on my stock clamps, the holes on there where it mounted to the stock bolts that went through the steering stem, they weren't big enough. So you're gonna have to hollow those out to a 1/2 inch hole. So I figured it out, 1/2 inch, hollow them out. I didn't use the washers on the nuts on the bottom of the anti-vibe clamps. But this plate does fit in there because it's about the same thickness as those washers. And I was able to tighten everything down. And it actually looks pretty good up here. It wasn't too bad. Hollowing it out kind of sucked because I didn't want to disconnect everything. So I just had a pair of vice grips and I was just hollowing it out by hand. So it worked out. Not a huge deal. Just know that in case you guys do have one of those little dashboards, you're going to have to do that. So otherwise, easy peasy so far. Everything's lining up. I've checked. Nothing stretches, nothing binds. So it's actually starting to feel pretty good. So let's just keep hammering down on this thing. Brake lines are next. All right, that was a lot more work than I thought it was gonna be, or at least it was tedious work. I didn't show you guys all that because most of it was just tightening bolts and like moving stuff around and making sure it all fit. Otherwise, it all fits very well. I think it looks absolutely fucking killer. Oh, I've always wanted this stuff that is 10 times, no, we're gonna say 100 times better than stock. I can't wait to get this stuff out and actually start rolling around on it. Everything fit in here, so nice. Those all balls, or not all balls, Tusk tie rod ends, dude, they fit just fine. Everything fit together perfect back there. And super simple to use, super easy. I mean, it's just a tie rod and it's not like it's that complicated anyway, but they're pretty serious, man. They seem like they're gonna be a good tie rod end for at least a while. I don't know how long they last. I don't know anybody else that's used them. Probably millions of people, but I don't know. I'm gonna give them a try, see how long they last. The Alba brake line clamps, they fit, but I couldn't get the rubber strips in there that are supposed to be like a little bushing or a little, they're supposed to help grip. They don't fit. The A-arms are a little bit too thick, so I guess I'm just gonna roll with it how they are. They do fit on there nice and tight without anything in there, and they're not moving around, so we'll go with it. But with the Galfer brake lines, there's something a little bit goofy about those. So I had to finesse and finagle these around till I could get the right amount of slack. And then when I start going lock to lock, I had to really watch where that brake line went. The other thing is at full travel, that tie rod hits either the A-arm or the brake line clamp. Like I can't get it to not do that right now. So at full droop, that's what happens. As of right now, it's not a huge issue, but I don't know. Just seemed a little bit goofy to me. As far as everything else though, it all fit together really well. I've got the, just kind of eyeballed the tires till they were straight and then threw some things back on so that the front end's pretty much done. Steering stem is good. Everything's nice and loose in there as far as steering, no binding. Everything's good. Only thing I got to do now is bleed the front brakes and then move on to the rear shock. I got to take the old linkage out and take a bunch of sleeves out and build the Elka linkage, which is massive, by the way. I don't know if you guys see how pretty that is, but I got to build this and then I got to put all this in. And thankfully, they send it with a reservoir clamp. I thought I was going to have to go find one, but Elka sends it with it. Thank you for doing that, because that's gonna make it so much easier. That's basically just gonna bolt up right there on the old Rath bar, and everything should sit nice and flush, and it's gonna look good. So everything's gonna be accessible, everything's gonna work well. Hopefully I can get that together quickly tomorrow, and then I can actually get out and ride this thing and put a little bit of time on it, because I really want to get used to how plush this thing is gonna feel, and I can already tell just by bouncing around on the front end, this thing is way softer. I really gotta start understanding high speed and low speed compression. That's something I don't really know a whole lot about yet, or tuning shocks. So I'm gonna mess with it until it feels really good, and then I guess go from there. But Jed said he's all about helping me out and trying to help me figure things out, so that if I'm out there, I can start clicking around and things start working for me. So yeah, I'm done for tonight. It's late. I don't want to work on it anymore. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Okay, day 3. Welcome back to Revival of the Fittest. Trying to get this suspension wrapped up. So all I got to do today is pull that rear shock off and linkage, and then I got to build the linkage with the new one, because I have to pull some of the pivot pins out of the old linkage and put it into the new one. You have to reuse the old stuff, grease it up, and then throw it together, put it in there, bolt this up, and then locate the reservoir somewhere on the frame, because it makes it a lot easier for me to adjust. But I gotta relocate the, or I have to locate a good spot for the remote reservoir here. So we're gonna bolt the reservoir clamp up. It's just gonna go right there on the bumper. Set the reservoir on there and get everything set. So let's get back to it, and hopefully today we're done putting all this together and lined up. I think I've got everything pretty much lined up in the front end, but we'll line it all up, and then I'll be able to take this thing riding here soon. I'd really like to get some seat time on this thing, especially with everything all put on there now, and how it works with the engine and everything now. It's got a little bit of different power to it. Really can't wait to get out on this thing and actually see how it handles now. I also have to bleed the front brakes. That's the other thing. It's like the list never goes away. But we'll do all that, and then hopefully in a few hours today, not an entire day, hopefully in a few hours we're all done with that. So let's just keep banging it out. Okay, just a couple things I'm gonna go over before I put the linkage and everything back together. I wanna actually show you guys what I'm talking about by rebuilding the linkage. If you look right here, we've got Elka on the left and we got stock on the right. I mean, clearly the difference is way more material on the Elka linkage, much beefier, all aluminum, both of them, but this one actually feels a little bit heavier. But the geometry is supposed to be different. That's why Elka built this specifically for the 06 and up, I should say, with their rear shock. It just all works together better. Now, all I got to do is take all these pivot pins and I got to put them back in here, grease everything up before I actually put them back in. And something that's different about the rear as opposed to the front, as far as the shock mount goes, is all the bolts are the same length, except for one. So on the front, we had a shorter top bolt and a longer bottom bolt. In the rear, they're all pretty much the same except for one. So you just have to remember this one, the Allen key, has some rubber gaskets on there just to kind of keep grease inside of where everything mounts. This has to go right here. Everything else is the same except for that bolt. That is the one that's different. Don't forget that. That's exactly why I wanted to take it out piece by piece, kind of see where everything goes. And notice that there are actually little rubber gaskets on there. They actually look like they're in good shape, but once I grease this up, everything should go back together that way, and hopefully everything fits a lot nicer. It wasn't too bad. It wasn't much of a fight getting everything out, but let's get started on this, greasing up all the bearings, and then putting the pivot pins into the new linkage, and then we'll start putting everything back on the machine. But otherwise, it looks pretty good. So let's just clean some things up and rebuild. I just found out something else interesting. I took everything out in order because I wanted to lay it out in order and just kind of like move everything straight over onto the new linkage. But then another curveball, Elka sends you directions because there's actually a certain way their new link is supposed to go in, and it's backwards. Right here, this was towards the front of the quad on the stock linkage. So this was the one that was all the way up at the front. This was all the way at the rear. They've completely flipped that with the Elka linkage. Now, this isn't the exact same one as mine, but you can see this is actually at the front of the quad now, and this goes to the rear. So those two pivot pins that were in here, you have to literally flip them around. So you got this real thick one. This is why I said I wanted to take everything apart piece by piece, but you can see just how thick this one is compared to all these. That's because it goes up here towards the back of the machine now. Whereas opposed it was back of the machine over here It's over here now. So if you guys have the same linkage, remember to look at that before you actually start throwing everything back together or wondering why your pivot pins aren't matching up. That's one reason why. I almost started just slamming everything together and then I just double checked everything and looked over it, and that's what I found. Good thing I read the directions, right? Moving on. All right, everybody, welcome back to ride day for this thing. It's finally the time to go ride the suspension, show you guys how it works, how everything's feeling, tune things in maybe a little bit. Truth be told, I've actually had the suspension on for a hot minute now. I've had it on since like January, but I haven't videoed it because literally this thing's been under construction the whole time. After I got the suspension on, I had to get it on right before round 1 of works this year. So it was like the day before I finally finished it, got everything together, and went and rode it real quick, and then went to round 1 of Havasu, which is where I broke the case on the quad. If you guys watch my Instagram, you guys had seen that I broke the case right around the shift shaft on it. So I had to get this thing slammed back together, new bearings, all kinds of stuff, new case half in a month before the next round, which was in Peoria. And in Peoria, I finally got everything back together. Literally the night before at like 1 a.m. I was done and driving up to Peoria, and everybody was asleep in the vehicle on the way up there. So all this stuff was done that night, got up there, raced, had a good time, came back down, and then went to a little event in Anza, and then all of a sudden one of the linkage bolts broke on the back. So one of the linkage bolts broke, shock dropped, and then I had to go find a new pivot pin, had to find a new set of bolts, put all that back together, and now it's together and sitting here ready to go for today. So who knows what we're going to run into this time, but we're going to take it out, show you guys how the suspension works. I'll tell you my thoughts on it, maybe tell you guys a few more things that are coming up, and then we'll move on. So let's get to it. All right, so a few quick updates. One, tried a new camera setup. As you can see, whenever I turn my head, camera goes with it this time. That's thanks to a few of you guys who pointed out that it's actually getting really annoying with you guys just staring at my gas tank half the time, because I had the camera on my chest. Oh man, a little rough out here today. But as you heard in the intro, it's just been a constant battle trying to keep this quad together for this work season. We started out on the roughest track, which is Lake Havasu, and I broke my case there. I had both brakes lock up on me 3 times, sent me up a berm. I flipped over, got back on the thing, kept going, ended up finishing 6th, and I had a big gaping hole in my engine case right around the shift shaft. I looked down there and just said, cool, this is gonna be fun trying to fix that. But got it fixed, got it all thrashed back together late at night to get this thing ready for Peoria, which was Canyon MX, which, by the way, is freaking awesome. I love that track, so I hope we go back there again at some point. But back to the story. Got everything back together. I'd already put the suspension on before Havasu, but was getting it dialed in a little bit beforehand. I don't know much about suspension tuning, but I got it dialed into what I thought was comfortable, and then went to Havasu and raced, and then all that other stuff happened. So I've just been putting this thing back together since then. Got it ready for Peoria, raced Peoria, had a good time. Came back, the thing actually ran really well. I had the entire engine part, so I went ahead and put a new piston in there. Still stock compression, but it's a Wiseco 12.5 to 1. Fresh rings. The cylinder still looks really good, so I put that back in there. Fresh head gaskets, you know, the works. Putting the whole thing back together, new crank bearings, all that. So got it back together, and then raced Peoria, and it ran just fine. Oh, that's odd. What do you know, just walk through the desert in a bikini, drinking a beer. Awesome. Ran great during Peoria, got everything back home, looked good, washed it, and then went to a little event in Anza And I got up there kind of late in the morning, but went ahead and had a good time at this truck track, which is actually really fun. And while we were on the truck track, I let one of my teammates, Kenny, he went out and hopped on the thing because this dude thrashes and he really wanted to see what the Honda was about. Well, he rode the crap out of the Honda, and on the second lap, the pivot pin that connects the shock linkage in the rear to the frame broke. It just snapped, and it broke part of the pivot pin that was in there. I had to go ahead and start scrambling for parts right away because I want this thing to be ready for round 3, which is coming up at the end of this week. So we'll be back in Lake Havasu for that. I might not video that because you guys have seen Havasu, but I think the next round will be in Glen Helen. So I'll video for that for you guys. But now I got fresh bolts, new pivot pins, everything's back together, greased up, torqued down, and ready to rock. So I'm ready for Havasu, and I can finally video this suspension for you guys. So again, sorry not getting it out, you know, a month or 2 ago, but it's all together. We're gonna video some stuff today. I can tell you first impressions, holy crap. I mean, obviously it's gonna be better than stock. Everything just feels comfortable on this. All those braking bumps, it seems like the faster you go, the smoother they get. After Peoria, I came back to them, talked to them, sent the rear shock out while I was waiting on some stuff anyway to make sure that this thing was good to go again. Waiting on a few things. I sent the shock back out to Roll Design. They got it done within a week. Sent it back, had a new spring rate. I think they went to a 3.3. They had kind of a heavy 3.1 on here at one point, but now I've got a 3.3 spring just to kind of set up for this these works events, because they're a little bit more MX style on these tracks. But I could not be happier with how it worked out. I thought I had the suspension pretty dialed when I was out there at Canyon MX, because this thing was jumping nice, it was landing smooth, and it was soaking everything up pretty well. It just seemed to want to nosedive every once in a while, so they changed out spring rates, which, by the way, I did not know that height had anything to do, not just weight, but height had a lot to do with spring rates. So Jed explained that to me, how I have more leverage over a suspension just because I'm a taller guy. So at 6'3", 240, it's a lot different than 5'10", 240. The suspension actually reacts differently, so they dialed it in for me on that. So here we are with kind of the finished product. The quad's kind of at its final stages. I hate to say that because the project's never done, right? But the quad's kind of at its final stages, and it might just be, you know, frame gusseting and some powder coat from here on out. Some new bumpers when it needs it or something like that. But I am so happy with how this quad has turned out so far. So I'm going to pull over up here. We'll take a quick look at it. I'll explain a few things, and then we're going to get to some good riding. There it is, guys. Kind of the finished product. You got your stage 5s, your Roll Design, plus 2 1/4 A-arms. One thing I really like is they have these vertical pins. They don't just have, you know, ball joints. They got the vertical pins, so whenever you want to take something off, you just take this top nut off and it slides right off the top, and everything else stays in your spindle. So it's easy to adjust in and out, which I've had to do a few times. They had a ton of camber in them, so I had to take a bunch of that out. Getting everything to jive so far, a little bit of tuning, some clicks. Really, I only had to do like 1 or 2. What's up, man? Good.
That's some nice bikes you got, man.
Hey. That's kind of weird. Just had a guy pull up on a Predator and ask me how to clean carburetors. But it's cool, man. He's got a nice Predator 500. He said he picked it up for 500 bucks. So apparently you can still find good deals out here. Anyway, back to the suspension. The way it's set up was, for me, you know, everything was kind of tuned into me because I went through Roll Design. I didn't just ask Elka to send some shock. I actually had Doug and Jed look me over and tell me what kind of things I should do with it, and then kind of give me an idea of where I should start with as far as settings and things like that. But they send everything to you zeroed out, and they should have spring rates pretty dialed in. But then if you talk to them and tell them what it's doing, they'll help you go a little bit deeper with it. It's dialed in now, feels pretty good. All I've had to do is maybe 1 or 2 clicks softer on compression. Maybe high-speed compression feels good, low-speed compression a little choppy, but I mean, that stuff I'm still learning. I'm not a guru or anything. Do I think that putting a suspension on like this is gonna make me fast? No,
I don't believe that for a second. But what I do believe is this stuff right here will definitely help you get faster. So I can push the limits and feel more comfortable now. It doesn't feel like the bike's overpowered for the suspension that was on it. Because, I mean, stock suspension, let's be honest, was kind of garbage on these. There's not a whole lot you can do with them. I couldn't soften it up anymore. This right here, I can just keep going. It's pretty tough. Hammer on it and get some good results. As for the rear shock, they send everything with it. You've got your remote reservoir. They send you the clamp. There's a shock way down in there. I even went with the Elka linkage, and that's a few $100 extra bucks, but it was designed specifically for this shock. So far, I mean, I can't complain. I don't know much more about nice suspensions other than this stuff, but I can tell you right now, it feels like butter back here. After the Havasu race, or right before the Havasu race, I should say, I heard from a couple guys tell me that I should definitely turn down my rebound because it was kicking up pretty bad. So I've turned that down, but it doesn't have to go any further because everything seems to fly pretty evenly now. So, but another thing you guys might not know, got some fresh new look on this thing. So you guys have seen the Nerfs, you've seen the rear grab bar, but now I have a matching front bumper. And the reason I have that is because I've picked up a couple more sponsors this year, being Rath Racing. Obviously, you guys know about LS4 Fibers. I picked them up early this year. Jeff at Oregon Coast Power Sports, making this thing pump some serious horsepower. I mean, this engine loves to run, and I couldn't be happier with the results that I get from OCP up there at Oregon Coast Power Sports. Plus, that just looks so good down in there. And finally, FXR. So I'm kind of wearing their pants right now. I don't have their shirt on, but that is some of the comfiest gear I've ever put on. And no, I'm not getting paid to say this. I just love that stuff. And FXR is basically the comfiest stuff I've ever put on. Got a new graphics kit, new plastics are on, trying a new set of bars. We're gonna go with these Phoenix bars. I even was able to get an Hermosi throttle here from a quad that I got from some friends for the wife. So now she's riding. She's got her own machine, which means more parts, more stuff to work on, which I actually love doing. So I also put some new handguards on because these ones actually fit a little bit better with the brake reservoir. There it is, kind of in its final form. Like I said, kind of sad to say, but it'll have a few tweaks here and there. I also do have another frame waiting in the house to get started on. So I do have another build in the works. It's going to take some time, so bear with me. But I will get another build going here pretty soon, and I'm excited for you guys to see how that turns out, because that's going to be one of a kind. I really can't wait to do it. So let's get to riding, and hopefully we can get some good shots of the suspension working here. But I can tell you right now, this is ultra plush compared to things that I've ridden before. And this is more of a desert setup. It's not like an MX setup like your Walsh and things like that. This is almost purely desert and a little bit of MX. That's kind of what the Work Series is anyway. A lot of rough terrain and some MX mixed in. But I could not be happier with how this thing has turned out so far. I love the graphics. I'm probably going to have to get a new set because they're starting to peel. Maybe I installed them wrong. I don't know. They looked good. They still look good. But I do have some issues with it peeling up. So I'll probably just get the same set, maybe change some colors. But I really like how these graphics turn out. Yeah, from there, just keep on racing. We'll keep on riding. So let's get to it. I can tell you guys right now, this new rear spring, which I haven't really put through the paces yet, I haven't raced on it, it makes everything feel so much easier to control. This stuff makes me so confident in the way that this handles. I mean, it turns like it's on rails, but the way that this rear shock and these front arms and the front shocks soak everything up, it just makes you that much more confident to hit things at speed and know what it's going to do. Oh yeah, that feels good. Let's go the right way on the track here. Oh, that just eats it. Oh, that used to be so rough. Oh, somebody lit their stuff on fire. Oh my God, you guys. This feels so good compared to what it used to. shots of the shocks actually working with these arms and everything. Let's send it through this long whoop section over here and see how comfy it feels after about 200 yards of whoops. The difference that this stuff makes. Now I know this stuff is pretty ultra expensive. I mean, I know firsthand because I paid for it. Now luckily, Jed's willing to work with me a bit, and we worked out a good deal. But I am so glad we did. All I did, guys, is I took 2 clicks on a rebound on this thing, and that front end is just floating right now. Listen to that Rossier sing! Oh my God! That is such a world of difference. If you guys have ever seen the Pete Hager videos when he comes down and visits with Renegade Mike and Connor, all of us actually came out here a couple times during their trip and ripped around here for a little bit. It's just a fun little local spot. Some of you locals might know it. You know who I'm talking about, but you guys have all been out here before. It's just a good spot to test suspension out a little bit, just have some fun, kind of end a day of riding. We're gonna rip around here, do a few jumps, see how this thing levels out in the air, and then head on back. This is a little short table that you can easily overshoot, but it doesn't matter. This thing is just eating it up right now. This is so much better than what I'm used to. These guys are getting a kick out of it in their Jeep. That looks like some fun too, just crawling around out here. Alright, let's go hit the big table. Gotta hit this thing with a little bit of speed to clear the divot at the top, which this has no problem doing at this point. Golly. I know I sound kind of goofy right now, but I'm just so happy with how this thing's turned out. You guys have seen it from its infant stages all the way up to now. It is night and day compared to what this quad started out as. Can't wait to build another one. But it is a lot happier with staying level. Oh yeah. No issues with that, guys. Well, let's head on back and hit these trails and see how it does on some of the tight stuff.
Okay, so there you have it. Full new setup. new plastics, new graphics, new suspension. So happy with Elka and roll design. That stuff is so plush out there, and I couldn't be happier with it. So also, I want to say thanks to Sean Shidlarski. He's owner and operator of Slick Rock Gear. He's the guy who provided us with, nice, guy's got air ride on a Tahoe. Anyway, Sean Shidlarski, Slick Rock Gear. He's the guy who provided us with a lot of those mud guards and stuff. If you guys look at my Instagram, you can see pictures of it, but look him up, Slick Rock Gear. He hasn't really come out with these guards yet, but he's making them, and he's trying to finalize some designs and make sure everything fits well. He's sponsoring the team, giving us those things. We've got inner rotor guards, we've got outer rotor guards, so it's a lot like the rock locks from Douglas Wheels. And then he's also got mud guards for your radiator. I've got that on. That thing's doing wonders right now. Anytime I'm getting sprayed with roost, it's not hitting my radiator, and it's keeping it clean pretty well. So thanks, Sean, for that stuff. It's awesome. Can't wait to see where it goes from there. I love promoting companies that are getting into the quad business. I really hope this sport comes back. It's so much fun. Again, I'll get you guys some more footage of some races coming up. We're going to be visiting some interesting places this year. We've got Glen Helen. Idaho is another one. There's also some big trips coming up, so stay tuned. I'll get you guys into it, and you guys can come with us and watch those. So thanks for watching.